welcome to YouTube, Keyboard Skills Pro. This is Tom, and just while a few folks join us, we'll have a little bit of music before we start our informal Q&A session. I hope you're all doing good. Do feel free to send us a chat message during the evening, and it'll be my pleasure to have a little chat with you on there. So I'll try and keep an eye on the messages as we go, and yeah, let's have some fun. Hey, there we go, a little bit of cheek to cheek there. Well, good evening everybody, welcome to Keyboard Skills Pro. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Tom, and welcome to my studio here in the east of England, just bringing up here my iPad so I can keep an eye on the chats that are coming in. And a little bit of an informal session tonight. We've done some playing sessions so far, and we're going to do lots of fun theme nights coming here on Keyboard Skills Pro. But in the meantime, a lot of people have been asking about questions and answers, all things like that, and I thought to myself, well, we'll put a little feeler out there, and I'm trying to multitask here and talk to you at the same time as typing on my iPad, and a lot of people have said, we'd be interested in some questions, if you'd like to give us some hints and tips live, and I thought that's quite a fun idea, because a lot of people often, when I meet them at organ clubs and festivals, they like to ask questions, and it's great to share hints and tips of advice. So we've had quite a few folks send in questions. Apologies, we may not be able to do all of them that come in tonight, but what we have got is a lovely selection of questions from one or two online students. We've got some folks who are watching via the channel, and one or two other things as well. So tonight is just about sharing a little bit of knowledge, a bit of experience, and yeah, lots of things like that, which is really good. So one or two comments here already. We've got a message from Tom in the US. Thanks very much, Tom, for getting in touch. Tom, we often keep in touch with he and I. Tom's a very proud owner of a Lowry in the US. I've got John Cage, very interested in the percussion video. In the future, can you possibly show me more interesting things one could do in percussion? I presume that's the theatre organ one, John. Perhaps you just clarify that for me, but yeah, happily do that. Finley's put, why don't you play on a real piano? Well, for two reasons. One, my piano's over there and it's not real, it's digital, but I will be playing some music on there. So yeah, we've got lots of piano videos, Finley, here on the channel as well. I'm sorry if I don't pronounce this name right. Frasant, I think it says. Play Bohemian Rhapsody, man. Well, one day we may well do that. We have got some, as I say, some themed evenings coming up. We've got a 60s night, we're going to do some 70s nights, 80s nights, movie themes, so we'll include Bohemian Rhapsody in there as well. So that's really good fun. It's kind of weird actually, because every time I look on here, then I look on here, I see myself turning and pointing at a different rate because it's streaming. But anyway, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Tom. As I say, I'm a professional musician, and my channel is called Keyboard Skills Pro. It's all about organ, piano, keyboard, music theory, performance videos, lots of different things. So there we go. Anyway, let's crack on with the first of the questions of the evening. Oh, hello, Gary. Gary's just asked, do you have an organ at home? Yes, I do. It's behind me here. It's my faithful EL90 Yamaha, which I've had for donkey's years, and it's used in the studio for a little bit of teaching, which is fine. Many of you will probably know that I work part-time with Alan's Music in Great Yarmouth. Some of you may know me from the Lowry Organ channel. And so I get access to organs quite a lot there, so that's great to play. Finley's put, do you recommend the ABRSM or Trinity? Well, I recommend either. I mean, they're both fine exam boards. There's also London College of Music, there's Guildhall, there's Rock School. I use Associated Board, I use Trinity, I use London College, and I also use Rock School for my music exams. But yeah, all the boards are very, very good. The only one that's a little different is Rock School, which is more for contemporary style piano players. But Trinity or ABRSM, both very fine exam boards, and if you're thinking of doing a piano exam or a music exam with them, please do so. Which is wonderful fun. Now, I must crack on with the questions we've actually had sent in. I'll try and answer the ones that are coming in as we go along, and during the evening we're going to have a little bit of music as well. Anyway, first question comes from a gentleman called this is a great YouTube account name, a Google name. It's Tate the Lawn Cutting and Rail Fanning Musician. So yeah, Tate, thanks for getting in touch. This was a question a little while ago on the YouTube channel. So this came in via the YouTube community tab. And he said here, how would you compare the sound of a tibia rank on a theatre organ with the shaking box, that's the tremulant he's referring to there, folks, to a Hammond organ with the Leslie speaker spinning at fast speed? Well, that's an interesting question, Tate. I only wish I knew the answer. No, I'm kidding. I can tell you a little bit about it. The thing of a theatre organ, or indeed a pipe organ, is that the sound, as many of you will know, is produced by air, pressurised air blowing through organ pipes. Essentially, the organ is, in its simplest form, a kind of a big box of pressurised whistles. And of course, when we push keys down, we release valves that let air blow into the organ pipes. Now, in a theatre organ, it's slightly different because the air pressure tends to be a lot higher in a theatre organ. And we use these boxes that shake, called tremulants, and they're very clever bits of woodworking. But what they do is they're connected by the wind supply, and what they do is they make the regulators, the bellows, shake up and down, and so it creates for want of a better description, a shake in the wind flow. And what it does, it releases the air into the wind chests in sort of puffs. You can set the speed of the puff and the depth of the puff. So in other words, how fast it goes and how long it puffs. And so it's a very hard thing to reproduce a tremulant digitally. I mean, there are some very good samples now in electronic organs, but the real thing is still the real thing. Just like a Leslie speaker, you can record it, but it is it's a thing in the air. It's very hard to capture 100%. Although, of course, obviously Hammond have come very close with that. So with a spinning speaker, that uses what we call the Doppler effect. So as it goes round like that, you're hearing a slow. It's how singers do vibrato. They go ah. and it's this slow detuning and retuning, and they do it fast enough and at a pleasant depth. It sounds very nice. So, so I can sort of show you that a little bit on the keyboard here that I've just played on. And here we've got an organ section. It's got one or two theatre organ tones in, nothing particularly huge. But here's the recording of a sort of a tibia. Oh, actually, probably turn the volume up. That might help. And so we end up with this. So you know, that's obviously a bit of a simple example, but that's that kind of that wobble. Whereas a rotating speaker, the Leslie kind of effect, sounds a bit more like this. You can hear sort of slow and fast. So yeah, it's very, very difficult to compare them because they are so different. One is air being shaken, the other is sound waves being. As I say, it's basically, you know, the effect of when you hear an ambulance going by, that tone drops. That's Doppler effect. So that's how they use it. One or two more folks have commented. William Barron, hi William, thanks for getting in touch. Hi, I'm an amateur organist here in North Manchester, lad up north, and your channel has helped with playing the 4-manual Binns organ in Rochdale Town Hall. Well, I do know of that organ. That's a very fine instrument. I'm delighted that some of my videos were helping there. Just going back earlier to John K said, yes, it was the theatre organ video. Thanks for that, John, letting me know. So yeah, we'll probably do some more videos with percussion, that's for sure. What else have we got? Gary has asked, do you know if the theatre organs at the Grange will ever be available for private practice? Possibly. I don't know. You'd have to ask Jonathan Ling, the curator. At the moment, obviously, the Grange is closed. We were installing, well, I say we were, they were. I just get to play the things, but he and his team were installing a lovely 3-manual 8-rank Wurlitzer, a Granada Mark II model from the Slough Granada, and that's going in. And yeah, so all very, very nice. I guess at some point they will be available. Normally Jonathan does let folks have a go on the open days, if you ask nicely. Whether there'll be any actual practice sessions, that will remain to be seen. But down the line, possibly there might be a studio organ, but we shall see. But I'm sure if you come on one of the open days, Gary, and come and say hello to either myself or David Ivory, and see Jonathan, I'm sure he'll let you have a quarter of an hour either before or just after the open. He's a very amicable gentleman. So there we go. Right, next question we've got is from Norman, and Norman has asked, Norman's one of my patrons on patron.com, and he supports the channel every month with a pledge. Just before we go any further, on the patrons, you're very welcome, Gary, thank you. I'd just like to say a huge shout out to my patrons, Andrew G, Buddy I, Chris R, Eon In, I think it's pronounced, Eric M, Eric's in America, a lovely gentleman who I know, Gerald H, James C, James owns a wonderful Wurlitzer theatre organ on his property, which is amazing, Johnny Music, Norman D, who lives in the UK, we've just spoken about, Larry owner, a good friend of mine and student Thorsten in the US, hi Thorsten, Tom Koenig, who we spoke to at the beginning. Tom's a lovely gentleman who I've spoken to many times on the phone, and a very proud owner of a Lowry. Donald D, Dave C, Michael W D, Richard K and James A. You know who you are. I can't give you full names out, obviously, for reasons. But those are my patrons on patreon.com. And Patreon is a place where if you like the videos that I do on my channel and you feel like you'd like to support me in my musical mission, because when you go to YouTube, you don't get charged to watch the lessons or the concerts. You can watch them as many times as you want. Obviously, I have to spend my professional time doing these videos, and we have to invest in equipment, software, travelling to locations, and some of those folks do like to make a little contribution every month. So if you'd like to join them, do visit patreon.com. But sincere thanks to everybody who watches, and tonight there's a few of you joining me, so thanks so much for being with me. It's really a great pleasure to have your company here on this rather cool Wednesday evening here in the United Kingdom. Difficult time, of course, in the world at the moment. Wonderful how the music is keeping everybody together. Norman, I did speak to Norman and I said, hey Norman, you know, we've got we got to you know, get to the you know, get to YouTube and watch. I'm going to do your question tonight. And he said, I'm so sorry, so I'll be working. But he said he might possibly catch up a little bit later. Norman has asked, as a lot of people use the easy play style of music with single fingered melody and left hand chords, Norman plays the organ as a hobby, I might say. I'm sure a lot of us will be interested in the best way to bring more of the chord into the right hand for a fuller sound, perhaps. Is this something you would consider bringing up in your session? Well, I have actually done a couple of videos on this, Norman. There is some videos on the channel. But an easy, quick little tip I can give you all is when you're sort of playing with melodies, a lot of hobbyists who play at home, let me just put on a nice simple little rhythm here and a little sound. When they're playing, they mostly play, as Norman says, with a single finger medley, and it sounds something like this. Now that sounds very pleasant, but of course when you start to play chords, it then starts to sound that little bit fuller. Now, of course, having to know what sort of chord notes to add to the melody does require a little bit of experience and knowledge, but it's something we can all learn. So, for example, one of the easiest things to do is what I call a chord boost, and you do this at the end of a phrase. So let's take a nice melody like "Over the Rainbow." And let's play like this, for example. Let's put a piano on with some strings, just a nice piano and string orchestra. There we go, so that's a nice sound like that. Now, did you notice there, what I did, I started off with the melody line. And then what I then did, I played a chord at the end of the phrase. Now in that case, the chord there was E flat major. So you have to know what notes make up E flat major. So I've got E flat, G and B flat. The melody is the B flat. And the melody always normally stays at the top of if you're playing a right hand chord, because you need to hear the melody. It's no good if it does this. Because everybody goes, oh, hang on, that didn't really sound like Over the Rainbow, there was something not right there. So what you do is you look at your chord on your left hand, and you then take the notes that you're playing there. So in the case of E flat, I might play my E flat, G, B flat, E flat. And so if I'm playing the B flat here, that note I've already got. So the other two notes left are the G, which comes next, and then the E flat goes there, and then that's the chord of E flat major, the same as on this hand, but this is a different inversion. This is called the root inversion because the E flat's at the bottom, and this is the first inversion that we tend to play on the organs. So if I then take the next phrase, and again look, E flat, so B flat and G go beneath. And so you can do that at the end of a phrase, and it makes a nice little sort of sound, which is very pleasant. So that's worth doing. But as I say, Norman, there are some videos here on my channel. I think there's if you have a look, if you search my channel for chords, there's a few things there. I'll send some links through to you. So there we are. So lots of fun there with two great questions. I'm just looking. A few here. Gary's put, could you talk about your Paramount 310 setup? Well, all it is, it's just the organ plugged into a computer with MIDI. Simple as that. It's very simple. I use a keyboard, a PC keyboard, to change the stops as I'm, the presets as I'm playing. Are you planning to get the 450? It would be nice, but for what I use it for here in the studio, which is recording, theatre organ tuition videos for my students, it's not something I think I'll be investing in. But I have heard it's a superb pack, and Houtwerk is very, very nice. William Barron's put any news on the Hauptwerk setup. Well, again, we just answered that from the Paramount 341. Yeah, the 310 is quite nice. It's a free pack, and you can use that on your PC or your Mac. And some of you may have watched on YouTube the video that I was part of called "The Organist Entertains." If you haven't watched it, it's worth going to after the show here. This is a little Q&A, and it's a video that I did with a filmmaker called Paul Heine. And Paul Heine, some of you in the UK might remember him. He was used to work with Esther Rantzen many years ago. Used to do not Crime Watch, the other one, the investigative program. Anyway, he lives in Suffolk now, and he comes to Leiston Film Theatre, where I do pantomime music directing, and his wife Libby Purves, many of you will know. Hi Dylan, nice to see you. Thanks for getting in touch. And Dylan, we haven't done your question yet, my friend. That's coming up later, so you haven't missed it. Anyway, so Paul got in touch with me and said, Tom, love you playing the organ. It all sounds like an orchestra. But he said, I'm fascinated by the organ at the Southwold Electric Picture Palace. He said, I didn't know this cinema had where's all the organ pipes? And I said, well, there's no room for pipes. We've got a digital setup with a computer. So he thought, well, that might be quite interesting to do a little documentary about why the organ is there, because of the history of organs in cinemas, 100 or so years ago. So that's good fun, and if you haven't watched it yet, it's on the channel. It's called The Organist Entertains, and it's a fun sort of 10-15 minute documentary. They interview me, we play the organ a bit, we talk to John Bennett, who's the creator of the Picture Palace, and it's a wonderful place. It's very Southwold, it's very bijou, it's very small. If you go to southwoldcinema.co.uk, you can see pictures of the place, so it's good fun. Anyway, well, I've nattered on enough. I'm just going to move my chair over to the other side of the studio, and the gentleman on the chat earlier asked me, he said, aren't you going to play some piano? And I thought, well, yes, we are going to play some piano. I don't have Richard's put, it's very good. I like you crawling through the tunnel. Yes, there's a bit at the end I did where I sort of have to crouch down. My arms are like this. It sort of looked like a bit like a Nosferatu in the horror gothic film. Yeah, we're going to play a little bit of piano now, just for a bit of fun. This is a nice number. We're not going to play all of it because we haven't got time. But a little bit of Joplin's Maple Leaf Rag. In there as well for a little bit of fun. So we'll come back round here now, and the next question we've got is from who have we got? Eric in the United States. Eric and I have conversed a great deal over the last year or two, and Eric's very fast. Well, he's trying to work on converting. I think it's a Rogers, if I remember. Correct me if I'm wrong, Eric. And he's turning it into a modern digital virtual theatre pipe organ, which is taking up a lot of his time. And I know recently he's become a grandfather, and I think that's took up even more of his time. But he did ask me several questions, which we are going to be doing some of these in. We're going to be doing an exclusive Patreon question and answer session just for my patrons. And again, perhaps you'd like to join them if you join me on patreon.com. But one of the questions he did put through, I've borrowed to put on here, he's put, what advice would you offer in a video for someone that is getting started or perhaps restarted with an organ? Assume the person's goal is not to become a major performer, but simply to enjoy the organ. There's probably a lot of people around who may or may not know how to read music, but have the time to learn. So yeah, that's a very good question. It really depends on what kind of organ playing you're getting into. I have a lot of students who I teach online. We do theatre organ style lessons, and that's a very popular thing with a lot of my students in America, a few students here in the UK as well, who I teach via a pre-recorded video method. Excuse me. So if you know, years ago people would go to Blackpool Tower, hear Reginald Dixon, get hooked, and that's why people took up the organ. You know, they went to a cinema. My grandparents, who started me on my musical journey, they used to go courting, as the old expression used to be in the 1940s, in the late 30s actually, late 30s, early 40s, and they used to go to the Savoy Cinema in Leicester, which had a lovely Compton organ, and they used to love the organ so much when they retired to this part of England in the 70s, they decided to take up, as many people did in those days in the 70s, the big hobby of the day was learning to play the electronic organ. And so yeah, that's how I got into it. When I was about 10, I started playing the organ, and it was quite a strange coincidence that there was a place not far from Norwich called the Village Experience. It was a kind of a large bygone era sort of theme park, so it had lots of old buildings like the old time fun fair. There was a steam train, you know, kind of like an old time sort of village theme park, and in there was a massive building called set out like a 1930s cinema. And I met there many years ago, a great friend of mine, Terry Hepworth. Terry's a name some of you in the theatre organ world will probably no doubt know. And Terry let me have a go on the big 5-manual Compton that he put together. And my grandparents were very interested to read that the basis of that organ was the little Compton that they used to see, a 3/6 Compton at the Savoy Cinema Leicester when they were courting. And it was just surreal that, you know, sort of 50 years later, they saw their grandson playing the same organ, albeit much larger. So yeah, if you're thinking of getting into playing and you maybe don't read music, I would say, well, you're probably a complete beginner. So you're either going to be interested in playing one of 4 styles. You're going to be interested in playing traditional classical pipe organ, theatre style, electronic organ, which of course encompasses a whole multitude of styles, including the previous 2, or sort of jazz / gospel Hammond sort of style, and even that then spins off into sort of a couple of different things. So my advice would be, if you can, get a teacher. If you start from the beginning with a teacher, you don't pick up bad habits. I speak from personal experience, okay? I was taught for a year and then went for music lessons with a professional organ teacher, and that opened up a whole raft of things. My dear late grandmother, who started me off, had done a wonderful job, but unfortunately had passed on all her bad habits. So yeah, that's what I would say. Go and get a teacher, whether you're doing, if you're doing classical organ or whatever. A lot of people come to the organ perhaps who've had a bit of music experience with piano. So of course the piano can be transferred across. Yeah, so it's that's what I would say. I mean, obviously if you're going to learn the organ, you have to have an organ at home to play on. Most people go for an electronic organ. If you're wanting an electronic organ, I would always recommend to go to the music shop that I work at part-time, Alan's Music. Great selection of organs there. Lots of different brands, Lowry, Verzi, Ringway and so on. So yeah, most folks have to have an electronic organ to play on. If you have access to your local church, you can obviously go there and practice your church organ stuff. I have some students who do organ, they just have a piano at home, so it's variable. But yeah, that's what I would say. And you know, getting started for fun, it's, you know, buying a nice little starter instrument to get you going, something that lets you grow into. You know, but if you can find a teacher, that's the best way. Unfortunately, there's not many electronic organ teachers around these days. I'm in quite a minority in that area, but a lot of piano teachers around, and so they can at least start you with the bass and the treble, and you can always go on and find an organ teacher after that. And of course, the thing of playing piano and organ is that yes, they're all different in their way, but at the end of the day, it is keys with treble and bass clef. So a lot of knowledge can be adapted. In fact, when I'm teaching keyboard students where we have style and accompaniment, I can then transfer them over to the organ quite easily because they can read chord symbols, and I can teach them, you know, the fundamentals of some bass patterns and things, which is good fun. By the way, if any of you are interested in organ lessons online, I have a great series of teaching topics we can go through, and I do a lot of lessons with folks in America who we do pre-recorded lessons in, mostly theatre style, and we have a few folks in this country I do organ lessons with, and of course at the moment everybody I teach is online. All my home studio students, we're doing them via Zoom. So yeah, so it's fun, but yeah, but it's a very good question, Eric. It really is. But you know, it does sort of, you have to start with that right hand, then the left hand, the pedals come, and so on and so forth. So yeah, lots of fun, which is nice. So next question, Thorsten. Actually, this ties in with Gary. Gary's question. Thanks, Gary, for this. Gary and Thorsten. Well, actually, Thorsten already got the answer to this, but I'm going to ask his question anyway. And that is, do you prefer playing the organ or the piano? That's a very easy question to answer. It's the organ every time. I much prefer the organ. I love playing the piano. Absolutely adore it. I think it's a fine instrument. I started on the organ. A lot of people are quite surprised when I tell them that. I'm an organist right from the word go. I did piano a few years after I started organ. But yeah, the organ for me, as it was for, I think it was Mozart who said it, it will forever be the king of instruments. There is nothing to rival the musical creativity of an organ, whether it's a classical pipe organ, a Wurlitzer, a Compton, a Barton, or whatever, you know, a Lowry aria, a Ringway RS800. You know, they are palettes of artist colours for us musicians, and you know, it's the piano's fantastic, but it's very linear. You know, it's that, you know, you put the music up and people play what's written. Well, that's not fair, actually. You know, there is ways you can interpret things on the piano. A lot of probably professional pianists would answer that. But the thing is, if you play Beethoven's Pathétique, it's always going to be the same kind of basic formula because you're playing what's there. Whereas if you take a melody like, you know, Over the Rainbow, you know, all of us could sit down and play it, and if some of you recorded that and sent it to me, none of them would be the same. They'd all be different arrangements. So yeah, I personally always like playing the organ. I find it's a great conversation starter. It's really fantastic to play, and it's just brilliant because people always say to me, it's really interesting, and you know, it's a conversation. So when I tell people, they say, what do you do? My stock answer is, I'm a musician. Then they say, oh, what do you play? And I say, well, I'm an organist. And they go, oh, wow. And then, of course, the usual question is, so where do you play? Intimating that I just play a church organ. So then I have to explain about all the things that I do. But there we are. It's all good fun. But yeah, but I personally like the organ. And by the way, just some interesting things in the organ world going on at the moment with my working with Alan's. We've got our new Ringway organs have just arrived. They're fantastic, really worth watching the Ringway organ demo on YouTube. We've also got some new little organs called Estee organs. They a new brand which we've had a hand in helping design, which is very exciting, and lots of exciting things happening in the organ world. So do check out Alan's Music Centre's website and their YouTube channel, Lowry UK. Lots of things on there. Amashovishu, I think it is. Hi Tom, hello. Nice to see you. Gary said, yes, for me, the organ is the same, yeah, first love, absolutely. So that's very nice. A couple more shout outs, folks. Timothy Nicholson runs a YouTube channel called My Aim, M-I-A-I-M. I'll show you that on the camera so you can actually see that there. It's myaim.com. Tim lives in Australia, and he runs a YouTube channel which is all to do with chords, improvisation, the circle of fifths. It's quite an interesting channel, lots of things about intros and endings. And he's asked me would I like to collaborate with him with some videos at some point, and I said yes. Probably won't be till later in the year with my current workload and schedule, but yeah, we'll certainly be doing that. But that's worth a thing. It's called My Aim, MIAIM, the improvised line. It's a very interesting little channel. It's well worth having a look at. But Tim lives in the down under in Australia. And also, for those of you who want a bit of entertainment, if you head onto Facebook, search for a Facebook group called Music for the Masses. Music for the Masses. It's founded by a wonderful gentleman who I came to know. We did a few organ lessons a year or so ago. A lovely guy called Burnley. Burnley lives in the down south in the USA, and he's a very fine piano player. Owns a lovely grand piano, and also a Robert Morton theatre pipe organ in his garage or garage. Little, excuse me, 2-manual 4-rank instrument, unenclosed. Yeah, that's where he lives. So he founded this channel where we can all share music during the lockdown, and there's some brilliant stuff on there. So, I mean, in the last, I think, couple of months, it's gone from nothing to about 2,500-3,000 likes. It's incredible, and I put my videos on there as well. So Music for the Masses on Facebook. It's a fun thing to be a part of. We then have the last but one question. We've got Keith. Keith, I'm going to say his YouTube name, Keith Goldbrand, that's not his real name, but Keith lives in England, recently become a student of mine. Hey Keith, how you doing? Keith's asked, best way to use the slide or glide effect. So this is what we would call pitch bend. On the Lowry organs it will be called glide, because obviously Lowry came up with glide originally. So for those of you who play Lowrys at home, you've got the right touch bar or the left kick switch that does the glide. On the keyboards, we've got Versi organs, we've got these pitch bend wheels, those are on the Ringways as well. So we'll talk about that right now and give you some examples of how to use pitch bend. So here we go. Let's have a quick sip of the ocean here. Just a few more messages coming in. This old 340, oh that's Eric. Hi Eric, yes, hi, thanks for doing these. Always love your videos. Thanks for doing your part to keep the theatre organ tradition alive. Well, I'm certainly doing my best, and I know a lot of my professional colleagues in the organ world and the theatre organ preservation groups are all working hard to keep these instrument preserves. Gary Nielsen, who is your favourite current theatre organist? Oh, Gary, I like that. Oh, crikey. I don't like to name names. I can't say me, that's being biased. I've listened to Robert Wolfe for many years. Robert's a friend of mine, and I've had the great pleasure of standing in for him at Thursford a couple of times many years ago on the wonderful Wurlitzer there. So Robert, I'm a great like of. I like a lot of the older passed on theatre organists, people like Sidney Torch, Quentin McLean, who else was there? There was Gerald Shaw, wonderful technician, William Bill Davies. In America, there's some absolutely phenomenal players out there. Jelani Eddington, Walt Stroney, all the guys, Donnie Rankin, they're all guys I'd love to meet one day. I like a lot of different styles. Paul Kerner, Paul's a professional friend of mine. Paul owns, used to run a place called Sapcote Lodge in the middle of England, and he's building a wonderful theatre organ preservation place in Wales called Paul Kerner's Music Palace, where they've just installed the ex-Edmonton, Regal Edmonton Christie, and other instruments as well. So yeah, Paul's a nice player, lovely melody lines. Yeah, there's a lot of them I enjoy, and I still listen to people, as I hope people listen to me maybe. But yeah, thanks for that question, Gary. But Keith has asked about, going back to this pitch bend thing. So pitch bending is what we do when we play with saxophones or trumpets, and what these players can do, they can basically reduce the air pressure, or in the trombone's case, do a slide, or a guitarist to do a slide, and it essentially is a quick detune and then a retune back to the correct pitch of the note you're going to play. So here's an example of a trombone, he says, having the volume turned down, and this, and there you can see it's wrong, and then it bends back to the pitch it's supposed to be. So what you have to do is, you have to do it in 3 stages, and this is what takes the practice. It's basically bend, play, release. Bend, play, release. So what that means is you bend the note. I've got my thumb on the pitch bend over here, you can probably just about see that there. Apologies for my music rack here. Here's the bend. So when I bend it down, I can bend the note down and detune it. If I let go, it'll just flick back. So you have to release it and then put it back slowly. The Lowry organs, you kick the kick switch on the pedal to the left first, then play the note, then let go, or set it up on one of your touch bars. The Verzies have a bend, the Ringways have a bend, all things like that. And so what you do is when you're playing, bend, play, release, and gently put it back. And that's how you do it. So Hawaiian guitar, let's get a nice sort of guitar sound here. And of course guitarists, they tend to pitch bend up, because when they bend, they're pulling the strings, or they do the whammy bar. So things like saxophones, trombones, they tend to bend down and then come back to pitch. Guitars tend to go up a little bit. If you bend a piano, it doesn't really sound very right, so that's obviously keep away from that one. But things like saxophones, trombones, trumpets, all things like that. Keith, there is actually on my YouTube channel a 2-minute tip on pitch bend. So if you search pitch bend on the channel, you should find that, and there's a little 2-minute example there. So a lot of fun. Anyway, folks, well, we're coming towards the end. We've been here for over 40 minutes, and this has been a lot of fun. It's nice to have a little chat session like this. And every Wednesday at the moment, I'm trying to do lots of live streams. Every Tuesday, we have 2-minute tip, which, as it suggests, is a 2-minute hints and tips on music theory or playing style. And every Friday, we have our main Keyboard Skills Pro video, which is either a performance or a more in-depth lesson. Keith, thank you very much. You're most kind. Thanks for the question. You're very, very welcome. And looking forward to our lessons that we're doing, of course. Normally, when I do a live stream, I cheekily pop up a little thing like this, which says, if you're enjoying the free concert, please feel free to tip the organist. We're not doing that tonight, simply because this has been my pleasure to spend an hour or so with you. It's nice to answer questions. It's lovely to hear from you. So this evening, completely on me. But if you feel, no, Tom, I really need to sort of treat you to something, what I would ask is that you maybe consider treating yourself to maybe a book or a CD off my website. I've got a series of piano books called Pianistic. There's 3 books. This is book 2. Ring bound, beautiful music, I like to think, all written by myself. These are all new compositions for piano. And on the website we've got 6 CD albums to choose from. Lowry, Yamaha, there's a Wurlitzer CD, Strike Up the Band. So if you feel that you do want to, tip me in some way, you don't have to. Please don't this evening. It's not necessary. It's a true, genuine pleasure to answer your questions. But if you do feel like you want to support me, please do head to the website, take a look at the piano books, which have got chord symbols in, so you can play them on the organ and the keyboard. At the moment, I'm doing a lot of music writing. I'm writing an organ keyboard book for electronic organ keyboard players with, again, new music in, so that's coming out this year. And very excitingly, a lot of people have always said to me, I can never find any music written for the theatre organ. And that's because there's very little of it written for the theatre organ. There's a lot of electronic books, there's a lot of books that were arranged by theatre organists. There are 1 or 2 books out there which have arrangements in. There wasn't a vast amount written specifically for the theatre organ. And that's what I'm doing at the moment. I'm writing a series of books which will feature brand new compositions specifically for theatre organ. So keep an eye on the website, and we'll obviously bring you news on that in the coming months. So to finish off with, we've got our last question of the evening that was sent in, and Dylan, I sincerely hope you're still watching, my friend. This is Dylan, who goes under Skyboss2768. Dylan's a young lad, a young gentleman in the, I think the USA, if I remember Dylan, plays theatre organ. I've heard some of his videos, which is very, very nice. He's asked about good tips for transitions between songs, which I'm guessing you mean by that creating a medley. Well, that's quite an in-depth conversation, and we will be doing some videos on that. I've got an idea, I did do a video on it somewhere. Anyway, we'll certainly do something on that, Dylan. But an easy one is to use what we call the dominant chord, chord 5, from the key of the next song that you're going to. So here's an example. So let's say, put this back to piano. Let's say we were in the key of C, and we're playing along in C, and then we come to the end of our song. We finish on a C chord. And then the next song we're going to in the selection, let's say it's in F. So what we would do, we would say, right, well, the key of F is that scale. The 5th note is C, that's the dominant, okay? And that's the chord that you use to introduce the next song in F major. Now, as it happens, when you finish a song in C, you're in C, you've got a C chord at the end, so we could use that, but make it C7. And then you can hear goes to F. Okay, so let's finish in F now, and then let's go to E flat major. So E flat major is that. Now I haven't got an F chord in E flat major, but I have got chord 2, which is F minor. So I could do this maybe. So I could go what we're in F major. I do F minor. Let's put some strings on with that just to make that sound a bit nicer. Set that up like that. And then F minor, look. B flat 7, which is the dominant, the 5th of E flat. And then in. Okay, so that's kind of the basis of it. I'll do a video on that, maybe doing a medley of maybe like a show like My Fair Lady or something, which is good. Aurora Knox, I think it is. New books for home organ theatre would be great. Also, just a nice arrangement of standard songs that really use left hand bass. Probably, yeah, that would be nice. Unfortunately, you don't make any money on them because all the money goes to the copyright owner. So unless you're with a big publishing company, that's a non-starter, unfortunately. Nice idea. The thing with all the arrangements of standard songs, there's loads of organ books out there already. There's tons. Your local music shop would sell them. Loads of old second-hand ones in bookshops and on eBay. The arranging's been done by far finer musicians than me. But new stuff I think will be very interesting, so I hope you're looking forward to that. Richard Kurtz has put, I have a couple by Ken Baker. I don't know, is that Kenneth Baker, Richard? I know I've got a lot of Kenneth Baker books myself. That was a big organ learning series, but do send me some details on that. So which is good. Eric says, cheerio, thanks for a most enjoyable Q&A. Looking forward to the organ keyboard books and music releases. Thank you very much, Eric. Most kind. So that's how that works, Dylan. It's, oh yes, Richard Kurtz has said yes. So yeah, Kenneth Baker, yeah. I don't have any theatre organ books that he wrote. I know he wrote a lot of books for the organ. Home Organist Library was his. But as I say, the books I'll be doing will be new pieces that are being written. So those will be new compositions brand new music but styled and arranged for theatre organs. So we'll look forward to those. Yeah, so this has been a lot of fun, and thanks so much to all of you for watching. It's been a great pleasure to have your company. As I say, if you do feel you want to contribute to this session, please don't feel you have to, but if you do play, do consider a book or a maybe an audio CD just as a little passing gift. In the meantime, I'll say thank you so much to you all. Please do stay safe, and thanks Gary. Glad you enjoy the music and the channel. Thank you. Do stay safe. Take care of yourselves. Hopefully we will all meet again at some point once we're allowed out. I'm looking forward to getting back to a lot of my playing out work. The Grange, Southwold Electric Picture Palace, where I'm the main organist. You know, there's a lot of things that us musicians can't do at the moment. I mean, I'm quite lucky. I'm still working with Alan's. I'm still teaching, but that's about the limit to what I can do. Yeah, so we're looking forward to that. Playing for pantomime next year. Doing my pantomimes, fingers crossed. Hopefully all the cinemas and theatres will be reopened then, and all what we're going through will be a distant memory. But this is where I know a lot of people who play the organ as a hobby, and piano and keyboard, and they all say the music is just phenomenal. Whatever they play on, whatever they're playing, it really does just keep them going. You know, you can only watch so much TV, but when you're stuck indoors, it's and people are quite surprised when I come in here in the evening. If my wife's watching you know, RuPaul's Drag Race for some unknown reason, I'll just come in here and work on some books or play the piano, which is very, very nice. So yeah, so very interesting stuff. But thanks to all of you for commenting, getting in touch. Thanks for all your positive thoughts and messages. And as I say, please take care, keep playing the music, and if you want to send me an email with a question for maybe a future Q&A, I think we'll definitely do another one of these in a month or so's time. Do get in touch from my website, tomhorton.co.uk, where, as you say, you can see music books, details about lessons, audio CDs, lots of things. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, when you go to Keyboard Skills Pro, do hit that subscribe button. Next to it is a little bell. A lot of people forget this little bell. And what that's called the notification button. So every time I go live or I upload something, you get a little notification on your device or email to let you know. Please share the videos, comment on them, you know, and if you've got any ideas for things you want covered in lessons, 2-minute tips, topics for videos, do email them through. You can email me via the website. I'm always looking for ideas from you guys because that's the whole point of the channel. So take care. Thanks ever so much for watching this evening. Have a great week. I've got to go to bed now because I've got a busy day teaching online tomorrow here in my studio. Yeah, that'll be good fun, and I will see you on Friday with a video. I can't remember what it is this week. It's something interesting. I want to say oh yes, okay. Thank you, Steve, very kind of you. Thanks for the comment and best wishes to you. This Friday got a new video out which is how to improvise for total beginners. If you always wanted to improvise, you know, do the da 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 and do all that stuff, I've got a little 3-part video series on the way which will teach you how to improvise. By the way, just going back to patron.com, the whole reason for subscribing to Patron is A, to help support the channel, but there's multiple tiers. There's bronze, silver, gold and platinum. If you subscribe to silver, you get access to all the lesson bonus PDFs. You get access to the music and the hints and tips PDFs that accompany the video lessons. So it's worth taking a look on there. But this week on Friday, we've got how to improvise for total beginners, where I give you some ideas right from the beginning on improvising. Vintage sheet music. I'm recording my vast library of vintage sheet music. I've got several hundred copies of old songs, and every so often we do a recording of those. Once I'm allowed out, I will start doing some theatre organ video, tuition videos again, once I get access to Wurlitzers and Comptons and things. So yeah, but any ideas you've got for topics, send them through. Be delighted to hear your ideas. Take care, folks. All the very best, and have a great week. Cheerio.